Hello and welcome to Whispered Legends. I am your storyteller, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Get ready to journey into tales of mystery, adventure, and the unknown. If you love stories that spark your imagination, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a whisper. Now, let's begin today's tale. The skies above Skull Island were painted with shades of orange and pink as the sun began to dip below the horizon. King Kong stood atop the highest peak, his enormous form silhouetted against the fading light. His piercing eyes scanned the landscape below, muscles rippling as he inhaled deeply. The winds carried a peculiar energy today, something was coming. Kong's instincts, honed over years of survival, told him that this night would bring an unfamiliar threat. Beneath the surface of the darkened ocean, a mighty force stirred. Godzilla, the king of monsters, had risen from the deep once again. The ocean churned violently as the massive creature breached the surface, sending waves crashing onto the island's shores. His towering form, built like an ancient destroyer, cut through the water with terrifying grace. His dorsal fins, jagged and glowing a menacing blue, flickered like the storm clouds gathering in the distance. Godzilla let out an earth-shaking roar that could be heard miles away, a sound that reverberated in Kong's chest like a primal challenge. The battle was inevitable. Kong's chest heaved as he bellowed in response, the ground beneath him quaking from his sheer power. With a deep growl, Kong turned and leapt down the mountainside, his great feet pounding against the earth, creating shockwaves as he charged toward the beach. As he neared the shore, the mighty ape's eyes locked on the rising Godzilla, whose glowing eyes and massive form were now unmistakable. With a deafening roar, Godzilla advanced, his heavy tail smashing through the forest like a battering ram. Kong, agile and fast despite his size, leapt to the side just as Godzilla's tail swung toward him, the air whistling with the force of the impact. Kong spun, grabbing a massive tree and ripping it from its roots. He swung it like a spear, hurling it toward Godzilla's head with unrelenting force. The tree struck with a resounding crash, sending splinters flying. Godzilla staggered back for a moment, but his thick, scaly hide absorbed most of the damage, leaving him unharmed. Godzilla's roar filled the air as he gathered his strength, his nuclear breath charging up deep within his throat. The ground trembled beneath him as he unleashed a searing blue beam of atomic energy, directed straight at Kong. The air itself seemed to crackle as the blast shot forward with the intensity of 1,000 suns. Kong leapt into the air with an acrobatic twist, narrowly avoiding the blast that singed the earth where he had been standing just seconds earlier. The heat was intense, scorching the jungle trees and sending the surrounding flora into flames. Kong's muscles burned from the strain, but the fury in his eyes only grew. He landed with a heavy thud and let out a deafening roar of defiance. He charged forward, his immense strength allowing him to leap across the terrain like a predator hunting its prey. He hurled boulders and chunks of earth at Godzilla, hoping to land a hit, but the king of monsters seemed unfazed. Godzilla retaliated, swiping his massive claws through the air, catching Kong across the chest. The blow sent Kong crashing into a nearby rock formation, shattering it upon impact. Blood poured from the deep gashes on his chest, but Kong quickly regained his footing, shaking off the damage like a warrior preparing for the next round. The battle raged on, each strike from one titan answered by the other. Kong was faster, more agile, able to dodge and counter, but Godzilla's sheer size and destructive power were overwhelming. The ground quaked beneath their feet as they clashed, trees splintering and the air filled with the sounds of their fury. Kong's fists pummeled Godzilla's face, but Godzilla's retaliatory atomic breath sent Kong sprawling backward, the ground cracking under his impact. But Kong had not come this far to give up. The battle had only ignited his primal will to survive. His eyes, full of fire and determination, locked onto Godzilla as the massive beast loomed over him. The air grew heavy with the scent of sulfur and smoke as Kong gathered what remained of his strength. He leapt toward Godzilla, grabbing hold of one of the massive fins on Godzilla's back, his fingers sinking into the scaly surface. He pulled himself up, using every ounce of strength he had left. Godzilla let out a roar of frustration and swung his tail at Kong, but the ape was quicker. He slid along Godzilla's spine, darting to the creature's side. In a move that stunned even Godzilla, Kong leapt high into the air, reaching for the creature's head. With a mighty roar, Kong delivered a brutal uppercut, striking Godzilla with the full force of his strength. The impact reverberated through the island, knocking Godzilla off balance. For a brief moment, the world stood still, and the towering beast staggered back, confusion flickering in his glowing eyes. Kong landed gracefully on the ground, prepared for whatever came next. But Godzilla was not finished. The earth shook as he gathered the full force of his nuclear energy. His back arched, his body glowing brighter with a fierce blue light. Kong's eyes widened in realization. This would be Godzilla's final move. Kong attempted to flee, but the atomic breath released in a blinding flash of light. The beam was all-consuming, and Kong barely managed to avoid the full brunt of it. The heat seared his skin as he dodged, but he couldn't avoid the explosion of energy. The shockwave sent Kong flying backward, crashing into a massive rock face. Kong struggled to rise, his body bruised and battered, blood flowing from his wounds. His breath was ragged, his limbs heavy. But his spirit, his will to fight, was unyielding. He stood up one last time, roaring in defiance, his chest heaving with exhaustion and rage. But Godzilla, too, was weary. The battle had drained him, and the island itself was showing signs of collapse. The ground trembled beneath their feet as cracks spread across the earth. The ocean roared as the creatures of the deep stirred beneath the surface, sensing the fight's conclusion. Kong stood tall, victorious in his own way. He had fought with every ounce of strength he had, but there was no sense in destroying his home or killing Godzilla when both had shown their might. With a final, respectful growl, Godzilla turned, retreating back toward the ocean. His enormous body vanished beneath the waves, leaving Kong standing alone on the shore, watching the ocean swallow his foe. The battle was over, but its echo would forever be heard on Skull Island. Kong had claimed the title of king, but in the heart of the jungle, he knew that the legends of their battle would continue to thrive. As the last rays of the sun disappeared, Kong raised his fists to the sky in a primal declaration of his reign. He was the king of Skull Island, and for now, that was all that mattered.